My name's Gary Forbes. I'm a member of the board here at QUUF. Welcome into this day with Quimper Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, a liberal religious congregation founded in 1976 and bound together to serve religious freedom, caring community, and social justice. As we gather, we acknowledge that the water, land, and shorelines here in Port Townsend are the traditional territories of the Sklallam and Chimacum peoples. We honor and acknowledge our indigenous members and neighbors and vow to help restore and sustain these homelands. If you're visiting today, we offer you a special welcome and invite you to join us for refreshments and conversation in the fellowship hall after the service. We have a newcomers table near the patio doors where our greeters are ready to answer any questions you may have. So, may the welcome we offer you be in equal measure to the one in our hearts. Now we ask you and our interim minister for your patience as we do some necessary housekeeping.
Thank you.
Next Sunday, March 1st, we have 3 big things happening. Announcement 1, today is the first Mystery Pal exchange. If you would like to have a QUUF pen pal for the month of March, sign up today. Mystery Pals is our program for sharing memories of QUUF across the decades and making friends with someone from another generation. Announcement 2, we have a treat for everyone during the service. The world premiere of Creating the Future, a slideshow featuring former QUUF religious education youth, then and now. A cookie reception will follow the service. Announcement 3, the nominating committee will hold an open house here in the sanctuary following the service as well. You'll hear from members of the board, endowments, and nominating committees describing ways to deepen your contributions to this fellowship. This is an exciting time of transition and growth, and your enthusiasm and experience are most welcome. Please join us. Announcement 4, Zoanne Lamp has a stewardship moment for us.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, everyone. Growing up, every December, my parents received a box of little envelopes for the weekly Sunday offering. 52 envelopes, plus a few extra for special church holidays. My brother and I had our own boxes, too. Each Sunday, I loved finding the right envelope, placing my small donation in that envelope, and carrying it to Sunday school. It was a simple ritual, but it taught me something that has stayed with me. If something matters to me, I need to help sustain it. This early lesson guides me now in supporting QUUF. Like many of us here, I left the faith I grew up in and spent years searching for a spiritual home. After moving here in 1994, I kept looking for a community where I truly felt like I belonged. Before I joined QUUF in 2015, I noticed that many of the people I admired and respected were part of this congregation. After a few one-on-one conversations and a couple of Sunday services under my belt, I realized I didn't just appreciate this community, I wanted to become a part of it. When I learned more and more about Unitarian Universalism, it felt like coming home. The 7 principles were already values I held. Our new shared values statement speaks even more strongly to me about the world we're trying to build. A world where justice and equity matter, where we are open to growth and change, where generosity and many perspectives are welcomed, where we recognize how connected we are, and where love is always at the center of what we do. That is a world I want to live in, and that is what this community is actively working on. For me, pledging is part of my spiritual practice. It is one concrete way I live what I believe. I do not give out of habit or obligation. I give because I'm saying yes to this community and to our shared values. When I share my resources and time, I feel more connected and more invested in what we are building together. When the Fair Share Giving Guide was introduced a few years ago, Bruce and I decided to step up to the challenge, and we've been giving at our fair share level ever since. That is how our values move from just some good words into real action. QUF exists because we show up for one another. Our pledges support our staff and care for this building. They also make possible everything we cherish here. Religious education in OWL, covenant groups, pastoral care, Sunday services and social hour, meditation, youth group, social justice work, also classes, and so much more. Every pledge sustains the heart of this fellowship. We're not just funding a budget, we are funding our values and something that we dearly love. This year's stewardship theme is creating our future. That future is not far away. We are shaping it now. I give because I believe in who we are and who we are becoming. I want this to remain a place where people find belonging, ask big questions, and are encouraged to live with intention. If you have found connection, comfort, and courage here, like I have, I invite you to help nurture the place that nurtures all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. Announcement number 5. Really, this is important. This is today. After the service, there will be a multi-generational discussion section here in the sanctuary. All are invited. Hope you can attend. Now let us settle our minds and calm our hearts.
Good morning, all. It's allergy time again. My name is Don Rollins. I serve this congregation as interim minister. I use pronouns he and him. We are so glad you're with us today. The opening song is Tom Paxton's Can't Help But Wonder Where I'm Bound. This goes back a few years. The idea is to support this theme, and we really don't know where we're headed in life, and we don't want to fool ourselves and tell ourselves we do. So here's the unofficial interim ministry song. Well, it's long and a dusty road. Let me get that right. It's a long and a dusty road, and it's a hot and a heavy load. People you meet, they ain't always kind. Most are sad, most are good. Most have done the best they could. Some have even helped to ease my troubled mind. No, I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Well, I can't help but wonder where I'm bound. Had a buddy way back home, and then we started out to roam. And I hear he's out on San Francisco Bay. Sometimes with my friends for a few, his old voice comes turning through. And I'll have to go and see him one fine day. So you know I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. I can't help but wonder where I'm bound. So if you see me passing by, and you stop and you wonder why, and you wish you were a rambler too, just nail your shoes to the kitchen floor and lace them up and bar the door. Then you start for the roof that's over you. No, I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. I can't help but wonder where I'm bound.
I'm shorter than he is. Well, welcome everyone. I'd like to invite Maya Cardinal up to light our chalice. We light today's chalice with these words from Reverend Jamie Yandel, our Unitarian Universalist Association's transgender support specialist. We light this chalice for the quiet truths we carry and for the futures we're brave enough to write. In this circle, we honor the courage it takes to live openly, the softness that sustains us, and the joy and power that grow when we gather. As the chalice glows, may we feel steadiness rise in us. May we trust that our becoming, messy, radiant, unfolding, wholly belongs to us. Please rise in body and spirit and join us in our opening hymn.
Got it? Yeah. I'm going to sing part of it to you, and I want you to echo it back at me so that you can learn it, okay? Why don't you give me a key?
By the way, this is Al, and we are singing a brand new hymn out of our brand new digital hymn book. The online version is just so cool. So if you're interested, we can give you the magic words to get in. Come to the office, although, yeah, that's what we'll do. So anyway, brand new hymn to us. We're going to sing it twice, regardless of what your order of service said.
Here's the first part. I'm so glad that my joy came back to me. I'm so glad that my joy came back to me. All right, let's hear you do it. Ready? I'm so glad that my joy came back to me. I'm so glad that my joy came back to me. Next section. Yes, I cried and I prayed until that blessed day that my joy at last got back to me. All right, together. Yes, I cried and I prayed until that blessed day that my joy at last came back to me. Nice. All right, now let's do it all together. And you have the words up there. We're going to repeat. We're going to sing 3 verses and then go back, do a little modulation, and do the first verse again. All right? Go. I'm so glad that my joy came back to me. I'm so glad that my joy came back to me. Yes, I cried and I prayed until that blessed day that my joy at last came back to me. I'm so glad for the lesson
And we've got a bunch of stuff up here, so if y'all can kind of sit down here today, that would be great. Perfect. Perfect. Hello, hello, hello. I'm going to be turning my back to y'all so I can talk to them. Good morning. Today I'm going to be telling you a story about a bear whose name was Little Bear. Now, who can tell me why you think that Little Bear was called Little Bear? He was little. He was little. Good job. Good job. So, Little Bear liked to do the same things. Little Bear liked to have the same thing for breakfast, pancakes, every day with lots of syrup. Little Bear liked routines. Little Bear liked to take Little Bear's bath at the same time every night and get tucked into bed by Big Bear at the same time every night. But one morning, Little Bear woke up laying in bed and staring at the ceiling, and they were very worried. Little Bear looked up and thought, oh no, today was the first day of a new school year. Do y'all like first days of new school years? No. First days of anything that you're not familiar with can be a little bit scary, huh? So Little Bear was laying there feeling like, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if any of my friends from last year are going to be there. I don't know who my teacher's going to be. I don't know if my teacher's going to be nice or if my teacher's going to be mean. I don't know if I'm going to have lunch at the same time. I just don't know. Big Bear came into the room. Why do you think Big Bear was called Big Bear? Because they were big. Good job. Big Bear comes into the room and goes, okay, Little Bear, it's time to get up and get going. Little Bear just stared at the ceiling and went, I don't think so. Why don't you want to get up and get going? It's time to have your pancakes with your syrup. I'm not so sure. What's wrong, Little Bear? Today is a really scary day. It feels really big. Oh, are you maybe feeling a little scared because today is your first day of a new grade? Yes, I am. So Big Bear sat down beside Little Bear and said, Little Bear, do you want to get up and have your pancakes with your syrup like you always do? Yes, I do. And do you want to walk to school with me like you always do? Yes, I do. But I don't want to go in by myself. It feels really scary. And Big Bear said, you know what? Sometimes change can feel really scary because it's not something you've done before. But you know what? What if I walk in with you and I go to your new class with you and I meet your teacher with you and we can sit down at a table and see if there's any of your friends, or if not, we can see if you want to make any new friends and I'll be there with you. Little Bear took a big, deep breath. That sounds really good. So Little Bear got up and ate breakfast, and they walked to school, and they went inside. Little Bear took Big Bear's hand and took a deep breath and walked in. And they walked into the classroom, and the teacher had a big smile on their face. And there was a friend there that they had known from last year. And they were really happy to have Big Bear there with them to help them on their first day. Sometimes when we do scary things, it can feel really big, right? Even adults, when adults do new things, that can feel kind of scary and really big. right? But the good thing about it is that you've got people around you who care about you, who can help you through those scary times, whether you're a little bear or whether you're a big bear. Thank you.
Go ahead and arch, folks.
Here we go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Boom, boom.
We pause now for a time of generosity and to receive an offering, which today goes to Quilcene Brennan's Weekend Nutrition Program. Weekend Nutrition Program is a local nonprofit formed by citizens in Quilcene and Brennan to help ensure no children go hungry on non-school days. Because risks of food insecurity are high and the effects are significant and can be long-lasting, this simple program can have a big impact on our poverty schools. There is no qualification or proof of income requirements, and the only cost is food. The food is bought in bulk, placed in bags, then taken to both schools every week for the underprivileged kids to take home for the weekend. Lives and bellies will be fuller because of our gifts. Thanks for your generosity. The ushers will come among you to receive the offering, and separate ways to give to our congregation will be projected onto the screen.
Thank you, folks. Pleasure to have you. This time is set aside so we can share our deep joys and our deep sorrows, those around us. So we place this first stone thinking in particular of Reverend Jesse Jackson, who died earlier this week. Jesse was part of Dr. King's inner circle. He was a voice for equality. Within the congregation, we place this stone in memory of Mel Dyer, husband of longtime QUUF member Barb Dyer. Mel passed away peacefully on January 31 of this year. His family was by his side. No memorial is planned at this time, so we send our love and our comfort to Barb and all her family. This final stone is for all those things in our hearts that go unspoken and yet weigh upon us or give us joy. It's been 15 years since I made the trek to Federal Way, Washington, from somewhere in South Carolina. Another intense interim training, stuff we didn't know we didn't know. That old line was true. That's where I first encountered the poem and the music for today's meditation. The poet is Danon Perry. Musician is Fran McKendry. Both have left us in body, but their words and their music live on in this room this morning. So before we begin this meditation together, I invite you to relax. If you haven't been all day, all week, if you haven't taken time to simply be, this is a good opportunity. So whatever comfort position is there for you, perhaps your feet are on the floor, perhaps your hands are in your lap, maybe your eyes are closed, maybe there's some focal point in the sanctuary that helps you concentrate. Whatever, folks, this is your time. So see what's going on with your body. Maybe rest your eyes. Let your heart speak as you reflect on all the transitions in your life.
Sometimes I feel that my life is a series of trapeze swings. I'm either hanging on to a trapeze bar swinging along, or for a few moments in my life I'm hurtling across space in between trapeze bars. Now most of the time I spend my life hanging on for dear life to my trapeze bar of the moment. It carries me along at a certain steady rate of swing, and I have the feeling that I'm in control of my life. I know most of the right questions and even some of the right answers. But once in a while, as I'm merrily or not so merrily swinging along, I look off into the distance and what do I see? Another trapeze bar swinging towards me. It's empty. And I know in that place in me that knows that this new trapeze bar has my name on it. It's my next step, my growth, my aliveness coming to get me. And in my heart of hearts, I know that for me to grow, I have to release my grip on the present, well-known bar and move on to the new one. Each time it happens, I hope, no, I pray that I won't have to grab that new one. But in my knowing place, I know that I have to totally release my grasp on the old bar, and for some moment in time, I must hurtle across space before I can grab the new one. And each time I'm filled with terror. It doesn't matter that in all my previous hurdles across the void of knowing, I have always made it. Still, each time I'm afraid that I'll miss, that I'll be crushed on the unseen rocks in the bottomless chasm between the bars. But I do it anyway. Maybe this is the essence of what the mystics call the faith experience. No guarantees, and no net, and no insurance policy. I do it anyway because somehow hanging on to the old bar is no longer on the list of alternatives. And so, for an eternity that can last 1,000 lifetimes or a microsecond, I soar across the void of the past is gone, the future is not yet here. It's called transition. Now, I have come to believe that this is the only place that real change occurs. And I mean real change, not the pseudo change that only lasts until the next time my old buttons get punched. But I have noticed that in our culture, this transition zone is looked upon as a no thing, as a kind of no place, in between places. Sure, the old trapeze bar was real, and the new one that's coming toward me, I hope that's real too. But the void between, it's just a scary, disorienting nowhere that must be gotten through as quickly and as unconsciously as possible. What a waste. Because I have a sneaking suspicion that the transition zone is the only real thing, and that the bars are illusions we dream up to avoid the void where the real change happens. Now, whether or not my hunch is true, it remains that the transition zones in our lives are incredibly rich places. They should be honored, even savored. Because with all the pain and the fear and the feelings of being out of control that can accompany transition, they're still the most alive, passionate, growth-filled, expansive moments in our lives. And so, the transformation of fear may have nothing to do with making fear go away, but rather with giving ourselves permission to hang out in the transition between the trapeze bars. Transforming our need to grab that new bar is allowing ourselves to dwell in the only place where change really happens. It can be terrifying. It can also be enlightening in the true sense of the word. Because hurtling across the void, we may just learn how to fly.
If you're visiting with us, today is what in interministry parlance is check-in time, which means we talk a little bit about how we're doing in this interministry together. If you would. Normally, I am talking to you about 16 emails a day is my average right now. I'm whining to you about how many meetings. What am I missing? That's what I'm missing. Let's hold that till later. So we have some amazing musicians with us. Folks, I'm not used to special music right there. My bad. Come on back up. I apologize. It's a great intro, though. You gotta go with that. Thanks again for your gifts, friends. Thanks for sharing those with us. And thank you, Christina, for the international sign that I skipped the recorders. That was helpful. So, if you're visiting with us, let me say again that in interim ministry, every so often we stop to check in, kind of how we're doing, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling sometimes. Normally, again, that is a number of how many things I've been doing, broad trends that we're working on, stuff like that. But not today. There are mega trends in play in our world, in our nation, in our congregations, in our denomination, in our lives. There are trends about. And what I would like to do is kind of shift that paradigm. Well, actually not shift it, let's move that paradigm over to a very different way of looking at interim ministry, and that I believe will serve you better long term. Draw your attention to the mission statement above. Say it with me, folks. We join hearts and minds,
to serve, to nurture justice, holding love at the center of all we are and all we do.
If you're saying to yourself, what wonderful graphics, this is where it came from, thank you, Phil Burwell. Amazing stuff, y'all. Beautiful stuff. So, they're in frames, they're also in our hearts. You might have heard the story about a very puzzled first-time visitor to a Unitarian Universalist, UU, congregation. Following the service, a member of the greeting team met the visitor outside the sanctuary and asked what they thought about the preacher's sermon. Well, to be honest, I don't believe in half of the things he said. The greeter smiled broadly. Congratulations, friend, you're in the right place. See you next week. Today is indeed the second installation. And beg your pardon once again, friends. It's just, we'll make the transition to allergen. Anyway. Second installation of my check-in services. Sunday morning reflections. The usual process is to lay out those specific areas and recommendations, hands-on kind of stuff. But as I mentioned later, transitional ministry, the work we are doing, cannot function only in only checklist form. There are always mega trends in play when we do these ministries. So I'd like to make the shift, talk about those trends that affect every interim ministry, but rarely get addressed. They are three. Transitions in our Unitarian Universalist ministry, transitions in our UU congregations, and transitions when congregations and ministers are on the same page. If you ever decide you want to be a Unitarian Universalist minister, think twice. You got to hit some serious thistles. We're talking graduate degree, background check, congregational sponsorship, career and overall fitness assessment, somehow I made it, ministerial internship, 9 precious months of your life, and 1 heart-wrenching unit of clinical pastoral care, 3 months of your life. And then provisional clearance by our Unitarian Universalist Association's Ministerial Fellowship Committee, MFC. That's the primary body charged with screening candidates for our ministry. And then meeting conditions for final ministry status. And then welcome to career-long continuing education. Let me whine. This is a way of life. Ask Mary. Even if we are not doing intentional work, we are still doing transitions work. This is the life of ministry. Right now, our UU ministry is in transition, a major transition, a period of rethinking what it means to be a person in ministry in 2026, in 2036, and 2046. We're getting serious, friends, about what we do and how we do it. This shift, and who am I telling? So many of you, this mirrors the one begun about a decade ago. It was a bitter, nearly denomination-wide time of dissent, every bit as generational, as theoretical or theological. Let me say it again, every bit as generational, as theoretical or theological? Would ministers with my history of privilege and ongoing institutional power, would we make way for the work of multiculturalism and anti-racism and anti-oppression? Words that mean something, not something to drop in a sermon, something to stumble over as we say them, but ways of being together in which we look at our lack of multiculturalism, our abundance of racism and oppression. Would we stop pointing fingers outward and start looking in mirrors? Would we, of certain privilege for so many years, do that? Would we be graceful and grateful during this long overdue transition? Would we retreat to our own fragilities and our own comfort zones? Would we be the spiritual elders we wanted? Would we do that? My generation of ministers is quickly passing from all forms of ministry. Some of us have met the moment and begun the path of listening and unlearning, owning our oppressions, being humble before all we don't know, and yes, sometimes all that we have done. And some of us have chosen differently. The point here, friends, is as you look at your next ministers, the point is our vocation is in transition from a place of privilege to a place of greater honesty and therefore greater opportunity. We are darker, we are queerer, yes, we are poorer, we are less formally educated, and we are living into the promise of so long ago that says we worship diversity because diversity warms our hearts. So as you think about the many transitions your congregation has undergone over the past decade plus, know that our professional ministers, know that our religious educators have been on a journey of our own, and we still are. Say these words with me. We are travelers.
To be for a moment in this sacred place, to love, to share, to serve. Let us use compassion, curiosity, reverence, and respect while seeking our truths. In this way, we will support a just and joyful community, and this moment shall endure.
Another wonderful story, this time from Barbara Lemmel, that appeared in the progressive Christian magazine Christian Century back in 1999. Just a second. A young rabbi found a serious problem in his new congregation. During the Friday service, half the congregation stood for prayers and half remained seated, and each shouted at each other, insisting that theirs was the true tradition. Nothing the rabbi could say or do moved the congregation toward resolving this impasse. And finally, in desperation, the young rabbi sought out the synagogue's 99-year-old founder. He met the old rabbi in the nursing home and poured out his troubles. So tell me, he pleaded, was it tradition for the congregation to stand or sit during the prayers? No, answered the rabbi. Ah, responded the young man, was it the tradition to sit during the prayers and then stand? I'm asking again. No, said the rabbi. Ah, the young rabbi responded, what we have is complete chaos then. Half the people stand and shout, and the other half sit and shout. Ah, said the old man, that was the tradition. Yeah. If our UU ministers are between trapeze bars, so are you. So are our congregations. Generational shifts may have gone unnamed, but they are not unnoticed. Diminishing numbers of children and youth in our midst. Rifts between secular and spiritual. Difficulties filling leadership roles. Consistently deficit budgets. Unresolved quarrels around worship styles. We knew something was up, and we knew it because we were boring the socks off our young adults and couldn't figure out why or what to do about it. And not so long ago, I saw a study that looked at Roman Catholics who were leaving their tradition. That was because primarily because of abortion and equal marriage. We looked at evangelicals in that study, and folks felt tricked. They looked at us along with progressive Protestants. We were boring. Let that sink in. We were boring. Take a breath for this next part. Not everywhere all the time. But my boomer generation and upward did not frame these failing institutions in starkly generational terms. We told ourselves, let's just go take out ads in the paper. We just need to cut committee and program spending. We need to reduce staff. We need more money. We need a different minister or none. We need to be us, only better. And so we did what we knew. Take a bigger breath for this part, because right about here is when I always get in trouble. Hang in. Any of the responses I just gave you could be spot on in the right circumstances. And yet they would not lay bare a sobering fact, friends. Our congregations are aging in place. And the younger you are in America, the less interested you are in sitting on a committee and singing out of a hymn book. Anecdotally, in the studies, we are boring good folk, ages 18 to 35. We are in a generational transition. And we see this transition going on everywhere. It is writ large in politics, education, economics, music, film, technology. Traditions and institutions are passing all around. And yet I fret that so many UUs of my vintage so rarely factor for the ages around the meeting tables, in the sanctuary, and behind the pulpit. This is why I get in trouble right about there. And yet, generational transition is the very lifeblood, not just for our beloved congregations, a brick and mortar, but for something far, far precious, far more precious. The gospel of free speech and free search, the gospel of a caring circle of people who know you and still love you, the caring circle where we say, it's a messed up world. Let's see what we can do to unmess it. Things that only we can do right now, right here. Keep rolling. We'll come back. That is, again, the international sign for keep rolling. Got it. Friends, it may seem premature. It may seem premature to be talking about your future ministers when you're stuck with this one right here for the next 8 months. Skip ahead with me anyway. Let's talk about what happens when ministers and transition and congregations and transition decide to transition together. What happens when they get on the same page? That magic sweet spot. What can happen then? Story is told of a young girl making pictures of God in one of our religious education classes. The youth minister visited and smiled. I wonder if anybody really knows how to draw something so big. Came the reply from the child, I don't know, but when I get done with this right here, they will. The holy hubris that happens between generations. And we say, I see you, and I will see you again. Because there is love in you, there's love in me. Let's laugh. That's the magic, folks. It can only happen between generations, at least in that level, in that way. Congregations who know how to laugh together, ministers and kids, they are providing healing for an unhealed world. That congregation becomes a center, an outpost for healing in an unhealed world. Congregations served by ministers who know how to laugh despite it all, they are partners. Say that word with me. Partners. That's the biggie, if that's a takeaway right there. Because in those well-matched ministries, the focus is on things of ultimate worth. There is no time for the easy, unimportant stuff. This is when folks begin to say, let's change us some lives. Let's save what we can of what's left of this planet. No messing around. The congregations have done the spade work of intra-ministry, and yes, sometimes that means with more than one intra-minister, because they realize that progress is not perfection. Progress is the goal, not perfection. So the interim period is a time of looking at all that stuff, but it's also getting ready and cutting each other slack as we do it. The ministers have entered a time of discernment. And therein is a time to figure out, are these my people and am I their minister? They do not rush into a final yes, because they sense something could be there, but they want to make sure, or at least as much as they can. So they enter discernment on their end. In those well-matched ministries, not every meeting goes smoothly. We find out that ministers have more than one side. Not every change in worship is welcomed. Yeah. Not every announcement makes it into the introduction of the service. I'm working on it. But both sides, they know that good ministers are professionals, but they have to have spine. They have to have commitment to good practices. And they can handle it when somebody says, I can't believe what the preacher just said. So these partners, if you look down the road, this partnership, if there's something that links them, it's because they look generationally. They think, they act, they fund across generations. They question those bone-dry conventions of how to do church. Things that have been in place since the Council of Nicaea in 325. When you sit in rows and the wisdom's up front and you sing out of hymn books. The bone-dry conventions of how to do church. And they stick with those things even when the resistance is fierce. Why? Because they know love needs a new and bigger container. They know transitions will happen, and the only variable is that there's going to be more transitions. Their power is to respond, not always to control or pick or choose. And they do this because they want to be persons of depth, long before they want to be ministers or congregations of depth. They know that institutional work can be personal work, and they're looking for a partner. So in those well-matched congregations, gossip seems out of place. We're partners. Folks are there in those congregations to learn or worship or see old friends. And here's a plug to look over their shoulders to see that person who's standing somewhere in coffee hour and seems a little lost. They go over and say hi because that's what they do. They're online, like right now. They come take classes and have nothing to do with Sunday morning, and that is just fine. They forward a worship link to a friend who just lost a friend. And they do that because they're in partnership with somebody who says, I want to be with you on this. I'll be your partner. So think about these things, friends, as you go forward. This is quite a check-in. I've never done it quite like this. But then again, I have never been in an era with this many megatrends surrounding ministry and congregations. Your takeaway. Ministers, congregations, denominations, we are all between trapeze bars right now. Let's say to ourselves, we will focus on matters of importance. We will realize We don't control a fraction of what we think, and the Zen tradition tells us we don't control much of anything. So let's loosen our grips, friends. Let's let go. Let's reach for each other's hand and be glad we're partners. So that's what it takes to get an amen in a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Had I known this 45 years ago, get used to stuff. So even though your order of service says otherwise, we're going to sing this song again. See if we can't ease into it a little bit more. So what say, Al? We go through one more time with them, and we just rock this thing. Get ready for the those of you who are readers or hearers. We're going to kick it up a full step at the very end. We'll say we do this. Okay.
Hello? Thank you. Why didn't everybody stand up? Okay, now, as you can, sir. Yes, if you can't, don't. Anyway, one of the things that makes things work, especially in modern music, jazz, and folk music, is called a backbeat. A backbeat is the second and the fourth beat. So instead of going, I'm so glad that my journey, we're going to do the backbeat. I'm so glad that, right, so it's going to be da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, like that. We're going to turn you into jazz musicians, okay? Give us an intro.
Oh, okay. When you start.
I'm so glad that you're back to me. I'm so glad that you're back to me. Yes, I'm great. Thank you, Heather, today. That joy has come back to me. I'm so glad for the lessons that I've learned. I'm so glad for the lessons that I've learned. Yes, I cried and I prayed until that last day. I'm so glad that the lessons that I've learned. I'm so glad that I lived to tell the tale. I'm so glad that I lived to tell the tale. Until I cried and I prayed until that blessed day. I'm so glad I lived to tell the tale. I'm so glad that my joy came back to me. I'm so glad that my joy came back to me. You guys are doing it. I'm so glad and I prayed until that blessed day. I'm so glad that my joy came back to me.
Our closing words are titled, Nothing is Static, and come to us from the Unitarian Universalist minister Manish Mishra Marzetti. They were adapted for our use. The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake, reminding us that the solid place we often love and seek is always an illusion. The crumbling dust of the desert plains, the moist fertility of farmlands, the eroding coastline of tidal shores are all changing. Committees dissolve or are created. Leaders retire or step away. Ministers come and go. Bylaws are amended. New experiences lead to new truths. The natural course of life, always pushing us toward greater understandings of what it means to be human. Everything about our existence points toward change. And it's hard because change involves loss. Can we hold the losses well while not holding ourselves back? The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake. Please join us in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish our flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, or the power of transformation. These we carry in our hearts until we are